How many hours of sleep do you need a night to function? Like with me, like sleep is kind of like the core of everything. If you aren't sleeping well, that's going to impact everything you're doing for the rest of your day, your week, your month. So like
Yeah.
know those things about yourself. How much sleep do you need? What kind of food do you need around you? What kind of people, what kind of like movement or wellness activities that you need to keep your energy up to help you feel good. And those need to be non-negotiables, because without those kind of very basic things, everything else just kind of falls apart.
Let's blow this up.
Look alive, Bomb Squad. It is time for another installment of Let's Blow This Up. I'm your host, Jason Sircone, and today it is episode 7 of season 1. And whether you're listening on your favorite podcast app, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're doing both at the same times because you're a crazy kind of person and we love you for it, thank you for being here. Season 1 is nearing its conclusion, but we're not done yet. Today, I am joined by the one and only Michele Colella. Michele is the brainchild behind Beauty Boost Pittsburgh, and Michele is going to share her knowledge, her insight, her wisdom on something we all need to be cognizant of, especially if we're still working full-time jobs. Michele is talking about balance. She's talking about mental health. And if you do have a full-time job and you're thinking about launching a brand, or you've got a lot of things on your plate that you're trying to find the best way to keep in check and keep things moving forward, this is an episode you don't want to miss. Michele is a full-time worker. She has her own business. She focuses very strongly on mental health, on wellness, on taking care of yourself, on the right diet, on sleep. And she's going to talk about how all of this can be incorporated into how you grow your brand and how missing some of these elements is going to make your life, your business, everything you're doing fall apart. Believe me, I've been there. Michele shares a lot of things today that even as we were conversing, you'll hear me talk about this as we go through this conversation. She made me think there are some things that we can all evaluate in this area. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about Michele's guidance and insight on today's episode. So please feel free to reach out to me in any way to let me know, but you got to listen first. So let me step aside so you can do that. This is episode 7 of season 1 of Let's Blow This Up, featuring none other than Michele Colella. Let's do this. Well, Michele Colella, welcome to Let's Blow This Up. It's a pleasure to get to reconnect with you and have you here on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat.
It's going to be a good conversation. I'm really looking forward to you diving into some of the great things that you've been doing in your business. And really, there's a lot to cover. Obviously, I know that you told me a ton of great stuff when we initially connected, and I really felt like it would do great justice to the Bomb Squad to hear what you have to say and how you've developed your business and how it's changed your life and really put you on a path that you weren't necessarily looking for, but once you found it, you knew you were in the right place. And I think as we all strive to establish powerful brands, that type of love affair with what we do can be extremely helpful. So looking forward to unpacking that with you today. But before we go down that path, Michele, tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are, where you've come from, and really everything that you're doing and how it's changing the world.
Okay, where would you like me to start? How many decades back?
How far back do you want to go? This is a very freewheeling podcast. You can start wherever you feel is best.
All right. So I guess I'll kind of start with, I was the kid that didn't know what they wanted to be when they grew up. So I went and I did all the things that you were supposed to do. You know, I got good grades. My parents said, oh, you should go to college. You'd be the first one in the family to go to college. Did that. Almost went to law school, decided I didn't want to do that at the last minute. Went to grad school, got a corporate job out of grad school. And then probably about halfway through my corporate career, I woke up one morning and I'm like, oh my gosh, I I don't love this at all. Like, what am I doing? And I just realized that, while there are benefits to corporate America, it just wasn't for me. Like, I didn't feel the passion that I had for other hobbies and things in my life anymore. And I just really wanted to go a different direction, but I didn't know what to do. I had one person that was an entrepreneur in the fitness industry, and she was my fitness coach at the time. And she was the person, her name's Aubrey Warwick to Steven. She's out of Greensburg, Pennsylvania. She owns Fitness Envy. And she was the one person that really encouraged me. And she said, like, you don't have to keep doing this just because you went to school and you've put all this time and you've moved into management. She was like, that doesn't mean that's your whole path. You can do whatever you want to do. So she was the person that encouraged me to become an entrepreneur. And it's something I slowly started kind of like working on over the years. And when COVID hit and I had a lot of free time because all I had to do was work and walk the dog, I was like, okay, let me put together this business that I've been kind of piecing over the past couple years. So I started my first business in 2020, and that was my wellness business where I helped individuals with their health, wellness, life goals, finding passion, purpose, all of those things. And then in 2021, I took over the event business, which is the Beauty Boost Pittsburgh. So I've been working those two businesses for the past 3.5 years now. And I do still work my corporate job. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
So you really just have nothing but free time on your hand, it sounds
All
like.
free time.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
nothing to do day
yeah,
day to day.
lots of Netflix, lots of naps. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that. It really sounds like you've set up a really leisurely lifestyle for yourself. Well,
Honestly, I wouldn't know what to do if I had free time. It's definitely something I work on with my therapist.
well, talk about that a little bit more because I feel there are a lot of people out there in the aspiring entrepreneurial state where they really want to dive into something. Maybe they've tried some things, they're still trying to find where their little corner of the
Mhm.
entrepreneurial world will accept them, but they're still working their full-time job and wondering, am I ever going to be able to make this transition? Will I ever be able to jump full-time into my passions? Or how can I manage both? Maybe there's a way that I can still work very well within my corporate environment, but also excel in the entrepreneurial space. What's worked for you in that arena?
Well, I think there's kind of two parts. One is knowing when you're ready to take the leap. And I think that's different for everybody, just kind of based on your personal situation, finances, all of those things. And also like how risk averse of a human you are. But
Mhm.
then balancing everything together, I think that is probably like a little more something that you can kind of give pieces to and kind of like work out. But I think you can do it. I'm very, I would say, like stingy with my time. I kind of time block everything. When I'm working my full time job, I am working my full time job. I'm not doing anything for my business. When I'm working on stuff for my business, I really time block things. I have certain times where I check emails, certain times where I do phone calls, certain times where I check Instagram. And I just block those things out and like rip through them in that time block. And then I'm done with that for the morning or the night, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I think in regards to structure, time blocking is enormous. I actually had the same conversation with Cassie Burkich. We were talking about this on another episode from season one about the importance of time blocking, whether you are running your business full time or I think from life in general, even if you aren't running your own business, the effects that time blocking can have on your overall productivity, it's not something that anybody can ignore. So even if it's something within your full-time job, but you're still looking to mix in other activities or even put more emphasis on those activities within your full-time job,
Mm-hmm.
taking half an hour to an hour each day to work specifically on a certain aspect and do it uninterrupted. Don't break that appointment with yourself. Always stick to that schedule. The end result is so profound. You'll realize that I should have been doing this all the time with everything that I do.
Oh, yeah, because
Huge.
like it starts to feel like everything is urgent, but it's really not. I mean,
Yeah.
how many emails do you get a day, whether it's personal, professional? Like, how many of those are truly, truly urgent? I would say very few.
Hmm.
So, kind of time blocking those types of things, definitely helpful. Also, knowing what time of day is your best time of day, when you're most creative, when your brain is functioning the highest. That's really helpful too. If you can plan out your day around those times, and plan your activities around the times that where you need to be creative versus, your attention is starting to dwindle. So doing like very simple tasks during those times a day. I mean, that's super helpful to like getting things done. And then also that frees up so much more time for the things that you love to do.
Hmm.
So when I work with clients from like I'll say like life coaching or health coaching perspective, one thing I would always have them do would be like time tracking. And while it's tedious and horrible and not fun to do, if you kind of look at how you're truly spending your time, even for just a week, hour by hour, from, go to bed at this time, wake up at this time, and then what are you doing? I like to do like every 15-minute blocks, even though it's a little overwhelming sometimes.
Hmm.
But when you look at like how you're actually spending your time, you can kind of look and see, okay, these times I'm just wasting. This brings me no happiness whatsoever. Maybe you're like doom scrolling, or, like watching TV that you aren't even really attending to, and it's things like that.
Yeah.
It really opens your eyes as to like how you're truly spending your time, and some things that you can get rid of and replace with things that make you happy or things that you love.
I think all scrolling is doom scrolling these days. But
I mean, I like it to some extent. Sometimes it gives me some inspiration and,
yes.
laughs. Like, who doesn't love some like dog puppy videos?
No, for sure. And that's the thing too. What I've noticed, and I mean, we know that we live in a very algorithm driven social
Mhm.
media world these days. And I decided I wanted my personal Instagram account to speak more towards inspiration, motivation, not just for myself, but even the information and the posts that I'm putting out. I haven't really posted anything to the actual feed. I've been doing a lot more with stories lately, and just honing in on that aspect of Instagram, but
Yeah.
trying to do more inspirational things. And that algorithm, like, instantly picked up that that's where I was going, and I am constantly getting more motivational things put in
Yeah.
front of me, and I'm like, finally,
Yes.
this is good, because
Yeah.
now not only is this affecting me in a way that it will make me think differently, little quotes and memes that come out that make me just, sometimes I might just need that little kick in the ass that day. That was the quote I needed here to push
Absolutely.
me to go to the gym today. But
Yeah.
overall, yeah, you have to cultivate that type of world. I mean, again, we in the algorithm based world we live in, if you're not taking time to cultivate what you want to see, it could be doom scrolling. But if you
Yes.
do it the right way, you might actually get something from it.
I completely agree. I mean, like, I'm in my early 40s. I didn't grow up with social media, so I kind of have a love-hate relationship with it. I'm
Me
on
too.
not super comfortable in front of the camera. While I'm super comfortable face to face and having real conversations with people, getting behind a camera and trying to like act like myself is kind of terrifying. And I try to do it, but I just so much rather be in a room full of people. But I think that there's so many benefits to social media. Like you said, controlling who you follow and the content that you see
Hmm.
is key, because that can make a big difference. If you're I don't think there's anything wrong with scrolling in the morning or scrolling at night. If you're looking at things that make you happy, and then
Right.
you can use social media to create real connections and make real relationships outside of our little rectangle phones. So I think
Yeah.
there are definitely some positives to social media, but like you said, it's kind of how you teach the apps to cater to what you need and what you want, but you can do it.
Absolutely. And to speak to the point you made before, I mean, yes, doom scrolling could be what you get into, but when you're looking at your day in those little increments, be it 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you're breaking it down into, you do discover a lot about yourself, but it's ultimately about forming habits.
Hmm.
And personally, I learned about the time blocking philosophies from the book, The One Thing.
Okay.
And that's a book that I highly recommend to anybody, because there's so much value in that book, not just about time blocking, but just the overall message of zeroing in on that one thing that's truly going to make your life happy and make
Mhm.
everything you do worth it. But building those habits over time is truly what's going to give you the discipline to get you where you want to be. That's one of the big elements they talk about in the one thing is that it takes 66 days to develop a good habit. And
Yeah.
if you're not willing to do that initial grunt work, like you said, it could be a little tedious to break things down into
Oh, it
15-minute
is.
increments. But what you learn from that could potentially build a discipline that carries you through the rest of your life in a much more productive and successful way.
Absolutely. I mean, it is like our brains are programmed to keep us safe, right? So our brain is having us do these things that we know how to do. That keeps us safe. We're repeating these habits that we've learned over time. We do it without thinking, a lot of
Mhm.
them. So yeah, you have to take time to reprogram those neural pathways in your brain to try something new. And that's why people get so tripped up with habits, because it's so easy to go back. Our brain wants us to go back to that nice, comfy, safe thing that it's been doing for 10, 20, 30 years.
No doubt about it. So, Michelle, I just to shift gears a bit, and it's almost going back to what I said before, because I want to dive into this because you've lived it and you're doing it so well. If there's someone out there right now that is working a full-time job and they're thinking about what can I do to launch this brand? I really think I've got something. I really feel like I could change the world with what I could bring to the table, but time is a big factor.
Hmm.
What would you recommend to them outside of time blocking? Obviously, we know from a scheduling standpoint and managing everything within a day, that's huge. But from a mindset perspective, what should somebody be aware of when they're thinking about adding that into their life? How are things going to change? But ultimately, how can they make sure that that venture excels so they can take it to new heights and really experience the success that they're after?
I think the most important thing is that you really can't do it alone. So, finding a good support system around you that's going to help you with those things to number one, get you started, and then number two, keep you going. So, you kind of need a team of people around you when you're getting started to kind of help, number one, hold you accountable and even guide you through those steps. I mean, when I was starting my business, I was kind of clueless as to what I would even do. I knew I should probably file for an LLC. But other than that, I was like, well, what else do I do? So, I found local small business resources. I took a class that broke down really boring but essential basics like accounting, legal, all of those things, so that you have an idea of kind of like what you're getting yourself into. It's helpful to work with a business coach, and then knowing that there's so many different aspects that go into even just starting a small business, from like marketing, websites, social media, like a plan for consistency, for launches, for all of those things. So I think getting a team of people around you that you trust, that know what they're doing, that have experience in whatever industry that you're looking to launch in, and then using those people as your support.
And I think to add on to that, something that all new or even seasoned entrepreneurs should understand that, yeah, you don't want to do this alone. It takes a village, as the saying goes. But
Mhm.
even if you're not in a position to hire people, you need to find resources that you can turn to that can help, even if it's just from a group perspective. Maybe it's a mentoring group, maybe it's just a some sort of networking event that happens live or it happens virtually, either way. But ultimately, you're surrounding yourself with people that can move you to that next level, and you aren't getting stuck in this rut of trying to do everything. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, in addition to that, taking the small bites. Don't try like you listed a number of things that are important, but I think a lot of people will see that and get so intimidated they'll say, nope, this won't work because I can't do all that," and then they don't
Yeah.
start, and it
Yeah.
prevents them from getting the ball rolling.
Yeah, sometimes getting started is the hardest part. So I would say, getting one business coach could be like your very first start. And that one business coach helps like guide you through all the different aspects that you need to think about step by step. There's a lot of free resources out there. There's definitely some in Pittsburgh that I personally utilized, and I recommend people to. Like, you can get a mentor for free through Small Business Association. I've used a lot of services through Chatham's Women's Entrepreneur Center. They do consulting, like you can do legal, you can do business consulting, all different things. So you can find free resources out there. But I also, if somebody is getting started, like I always encourage them up front, like, hey, this is an investment in your future, an investment in yourself. Like you don't have to spend a ton of money to bring a team on board initially, but be prepared that, you are going to need to make some investments in yourself and in your business to get started. Even if it's just for, a professional website, do you pay somebody a fee to do a website, or do you spend 3 months trying to do it yourself? Like, what's the real return on investment here?
Yeah, I think it's very important to evaluate where you're going to need the most assistance, where are your weaknesses, and then
Mhm.
play more to your strengths, but then get help with the weaknesses
Right.
and try to develop a team over time once you have the real need for it. When work becomes so excessive and so abundant, that's a great problem.
Yeah.
That's when you start looking for someone that can do the job as well or better than you, so you can put your focus on building and growing and scaling your business even further,
Yeah.
versus saying, okay, in order for me to even get this off the ground, I need to bring in a social media manager and a content writer and a video and a sale. Like you could literally hire a team and go broke before you even push
You
the
could.
start button on your website. So you got to
Yeah.
do it strategically.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like there's a time and place to kind of delegate things, but knowing, yourself and kind of your passion. So, regardless of what industry you're starting in, I think people typically do have some kind of self awareness of as to like, this aspect of a business really scares me. This aspect makes me really uncomfortable. So, you kind of have an idea of like what you might not be comfortable with and what you might be more comfortable with.
Hmm.
So knowing that about yourself can kind of help you, figure out like, is this something that, I need to bring somebody in for, or is this something that I can kind of handle for right now?
Self awareness is huge, and a lot of times we have trouble admitting that we're not good at something, or we feel we might be able to fumble our way through it. But
Yeah.
I know I am guilty of this, and I'm also guilty of working way too many hours in a day.
Oh, I'm not.
And no, it doesn't. Like I said before, it doesn't sound like it. But
I
I
work from
think,
like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
but overall, I think when I say that again, it has to be what fits your schedule. And if you
Right.
are trying to burn the candle at both ends, it does become more of a chore than a labor of love, and you start to get resentful towards what you're trying to build, and it ends up becoming a complete disaster. And that type of thing can play an extremely negative role or have a negative impact on our overall mental health, our overall well-being. And it, of course, when that happens, that ends up matriculating into all parts of our lives, and
Everything.
everything becomes a complete disaster.
Oh
So
yeah.
I know this is a very big pillar in everything you do, with thinking about the overall wellness of a human being, their mental capacity, their
Mhm.
mental state, their mental well-being. Speak to the importance of this, as if I haven't already tried to drive that point home with my little spiel here. But in your experience over the years, how does focusing on the mental health, all of the overall wellness things that we need to be aware of, how does that impact how we develop and grow our brands over time?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you are a sole single entrepreneur and you're trying to grow your brand by yourself. Again, you might have some people around you helping out, but like you are the face, you are the driving, the passion behind it. Like you need to be at your best performance level in order to be able to do that. Granted, we're not at 100% every single day. We're humans. But like you said, if your mental health, if you're not doing well, that trickles down through everything else. So I think it's kind of knowing like what your basic needs are, if you will. How many hours of sleep do you need a night to function? Like with me, like sleep is kind of like the core of everything. If you aren't sleeping well, that's going to impact everything you're doing for the rest of your day, your week, your month. So like
Yeah.
know those things about yourself. How much sleep do you need? What kind of food do you need around you? what kind of people, what kind of movement or wellness activities that you need to keep your energy up to help you feel good. And those need to be non-negotiables, because without those kind of very basic things, everything else just kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
The social stuff is kind of big for me, because my schedule is so, I don't know, intense, jam-packed. If I don't have things in my schedule that are fun, that I get to see my friends, that I enjoy, I start to like lose my mind and question all my decisions. Like, is this really worth it? So, I mean, I ensure to schedule time with my friends every single week. And it can be something like really simple, like just going to get coffee. Like, I love coffee so much. So it can just be like going to grab coffee and sitting in a coffee shop for a couple hours. And that's enough for me. Or it can be, you know, something bigger than that. But I know like what my non-negotiables are with like sleep, food, exercise, and my social life. And I feel like those are kind of like some things to keep in mind as you build your schedule. And then something that's been really hard for me is to say no, because I'm the kind of person that I get really excited about everything and I want to do everything and I want to go everywhere and go to everyone's events. Like, I have an event business. I love events, mine, other people's, all of it. So just kind of like really understanding like when to say no to things is huge. And it's something that I'm constantly working on. I think, you know, a lot of people are kind of working on that, but, you know, something that is a big thing when you're kind of protecting your time and your schedule.
It's all about balance. And it's amazing. You said earlier, you're in your 40s. I'm in my 40s. And I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine earlier this weekend. And we were talking about, or as we sit and record, it was earlier this weekend. And we were talking about just how things have changed. And we knew each other in our 30s and we used to drink and have fun and party. And now I was like, I hardly do it anymore. I hardly drink anymore. I completely, I mean, I did dry January by accident. I wasn't even trying. It just happened. I'm like, whoa, a whole month went by. And it was, yeah, right. It's just crazy. But, and she made a comment to me. I can't remember what it was. And she's like, oh my God, that makes me sound so old. I was like, this is how we talk now. This is normal. But again, I think about the fact that I would rather have a good night's sleep. I would rather feel good the next day. That's one of the biggest reasons why I don't drink like I used to, because I know it takes me much longer to bounce back from it and I'm completely useless the next day.
Same.
I don't want to feel that way. I want to feel productive and know that I've got something good to look forward to when I wake up, not feeling like crap.
Yeah.
So it was very easy for me to make that decision and that change in my life. And that was me, but I know that's something that's changed a lot with everything that I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, I do, like, I still love going out. I love breweries. I love beer or two. But Saturday night, I was home by like 10:30. I had and a half and I still felt like crap on Sunday morning and I made myself go to the gym. I was like, you'll feel even worse if you do not go. But I mean, a week and a half. Oh.
No, it's as we sit and record, it's the day after the Super Bowl. And I had a couple beers over at my sister's as we watched the game. And I woke up today and I didn't feel my greatest. And that was the thing. I was like, God, I just had a few beers. It wasn't like the old days when it was like, how many can I have before the game ends? But now it's, again, thinking about, like, I knew looking at my schedule that I had for Monday, the first thing I said to myself was, why did I do this to myself that day after the Super Bowl? But second of all, I just said, well, I've done it to myself. I know that I need to be responsible and show up for the people that I'm conversing with and recording podcast content with and having calls with. Like, it's another day. But you also get to a point in your life, I think, where you start to realize the priorities shifting. And that was what happened for me. And I knew, like you said, that sleep was becoming more of an important thing. I can feel the difference when I treat my body well during the day, enough water, eating the right things, eating the right way, not treating my body like a dumpster. I sleep so much better through the night. And when I wake up in the morning, I feel refreshed and energized versus I have, like, my big thing, this was just me. For whatever reason, like from the time I was a kid into my 30s, a bowl of cereal. Who am I lying? Who am I kidding? Into my 40s, a bowl of cereal at night. Like I just did it.
Right.
And it's like the worst thing. And then finally I was like, you know, wait, what maybe something will happen if I stop doing this. And it did. I actually slept well because I wasn't piling sugar into my body at 10 o'clock at night.
It makes a big difference.
It's huge. But overall, I think the point we're driving at here is you have to find that balance in your life, because if you devote yourself to growing a brand or growing a business and getting it out the ground, there's going to be some days where you're in the trenches and it feels like you're in them 24/7, can't get out of this, can't escape it. But if that becomes the habit, you're going to notice a lot of things change in your life. A lot of relationships will change. I have experienced this. It doesn't feel good.
No.
And it really has some long-term effects that are hard to reverse.
I think that's with anything, though. I think we all go through phases of life. You know, if you think about decades, like what your 20s looked like versus your 30s versus your 40s, and people are on different paths, right? Like some people get married, kids, divorced, businesses, corporate jobs, you know, like whatever, they move away. But if you look at those different decades and like how people change over the years, like not all of our relationships are meant to sustain decades and decades. You know, some people are put into your life for that particular time period for a purpose, and then you grow apart. And I mean, as much as people don't want to hear this, like that's okay. There's nothing wrong with growing apart in any type of like friendship or relationship. You know, you're just going in two different directions. It doesn't make either of you a bad person. But I think as humans, you know, because of memories and nostalgia, like we want to hold on to those relationships, but you know, they're maybe no longer serving us.
Well, you made me think about something. That's great. I mean, I think that overall, yes, the relationships are in your life for a reason, and the ones that are meant to stand the test of time, they will. Other ones require a little bit more work. But overall, I think it really comes down to the type of person that you are, and what you're trying to get from, not just from the relationship, but just overall get from life. Not saying that you ever use a person, because that's wrong.
No.
But like you said, the biggest thing to understand about us as humans is we all evolve. And a number of things can happen that might change in our own evolutions, that when one relationship was working today, it may not work the same tomorrow.
Right.
Like I said, you're giving me a lot to think about at that point. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I have these conversations all the time. I mean, with the Beauty Boost, like one of our goals is to bring women together to make friends, because of these things that are kind of difficult as you get older. It's harder to make friends. It's harder to meet like-minded people. You're, you know, in a city, maybe you're new to the city, or maybe your friends have moved away. And like we're talking about evolution, like you've evolved, your interests have changed. So, you know, with my business, we try to bring women together that have similar interests so they can make friends, you know, at this juncture in their life. So these conversations with women, you know, constantly.
Talk about the events, because I'm sure that this has changed to some degree. Now I know COVID is still a thing, but the pandemic is not. We're beyond that. So I feel personally, I know coming into 2024, a big motivation for me was to get off the friggin' chair and from behind the computer and go meet some people. Get out into the world and actually have some real conversations again. And part of that was because I just launched Bombtrack Media. I knew I needed to reestablish my network locally, but I wanted to meet some new people just because it's been so long. And a lot of the people I've worked with through COVID was all over the computer. I've worked with people I still haven't met in person yet. And while we've been able to cultivate a friendship, relationship, all is good, it's still not the same.
Yeah.
So in your world, and having these conversations with women and really doing everything you can to bring them together, how has getting back into that live environment helped you make that happen? Creating engaging, explosive content that positions your brand as an authority and go-to resource in your industry doesn't need to be complicated, stressful, or time-consuming. All you need is a strategy that sets you up for success and a partner to keep you on the right track. This is my mission at Bombtrack Media. I'll show you the most efficient way to produce brand-elevating content that can be utilized throughout your digital footprint, all done with your goals and busy schedule in mind. You're not a full-time podcaster. Why commit to a full-time podcaster's schedule? It's time for you to blow this up and rethink how you grow your brand. Visit bombtrackmedia.com today to learn more.
It's a huge difference. So through COVID, we did virtual events and made them really interactive so that people could still kind of get connection from that. But bringing back the live events has been huge. I'm initially people were really kind of like scared, afraid, and not even from, kind of like an infection standpoint, but more so like, hey, I've really only been talking to my dog or cat for the past 9 months. I kind of forget how to speak to other humans. I'm a little nervous to come. So that aspect of it was interesting to kind of like talk people through. And I don't know, it was never a thought in my mind about like being nervous to like reintegrate with other human life. So I was kind of caught off guard when people were saying that, but immediately I was like, okay, I have to do something about this so that people can feel, more comfortable coming.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, anybody that comes to our events, like the first thing I want them to feel is like welcome and at home and comfortable. So our events are pretty casual. I will sometimes chat with people on Instagram before events. So I know that they're coming. I know that they are coming to their first event by themselves or they're new to the city. They don't know anybody. So I can kind of welcome them and right away have them meet new people that I know that are there that are very welcoming and, like open to friendships and things like that. So I can say, like, oh, hey, Jess, meet Jen. You both love books. You should check out XYZ book club or, chat about
Mhm.
our book of the month or something like that. But our events, I try to make them like really interactive, sometimes slightly chaotic, because it gets people like up, moving, talking to other people, laughing, those types of things. And there's always a lot going on at the events. So we have kind of like structured activities, whether it's, a fitness class, yoga, workshop, panel, some different things like that. But we bring in local businesses to set up as well. So, people can talk to different local businesses that specialize in like women's health, wellness, shopping, all different things. So they kind of like meet different businesses that they need in their lives and meet different business owners too.
And I feel like that is so hard to accomplish in the virtual setting. Now, when we had it and that was all we had, I understand that you try to do what you need to do to make that
Yeah.
work. But I still feel that one-on-one in front of another human being, having those types of conversations, that leads to so much more. I just feel like it's
Yeah.
more natural might be the wrong word to use in this case, but I just feel like it opens up opportunities to where that conversation could start with, okay, we're talking about books, but then all of a sudden we're talking about our favorite hobby, we're talking about
Mhm.
favorite restaurants, whatever. It just you have more potential for a free flowing conversation to break out versus
Right.
when you're just in a digital environment. I feel like that environment is more matter of fact. This is what we're here for. Let's talk about this, and then we'll get off the call.
Yeah.
And maybe that's my own take on it, but I feel like you can accomplish so much more when you're sitting with somebody and actually having a one-on-one human conversation. What is it, Gen Z, whatever the kids are these days. Take note of this, kids. Having these real conversations is going to do much more than just texting and voice texting. God, I
Yeah.
sound old, but I don't care. I want to drive that point home.
No, I'm big on phone calls versus texting.
Oh,
So
thank you.
phone
Yes.
calls versus email. And then in person, sure. And I hate saying this because I've worked at home since even prior to COVID. I've worked at home for, I don't know, I want to say like 10 years now. And I think there are ways that you can set up a virtual environment to be really good for a company and really good for networking, but you
Mhm.
have to try really hard. I've
Yeah.
been in virtual events, virtual networking where, they kind of put you into breakout rooms. And I feel like in those situations, the conversations can kind of evolve more naturally. Like you were talking about, we start talking about a book, but then now we're talking about restaurants and things like that. So you can make that happen in a virtual environment. But I
Yeah.
think when you're all kind of in the same room and everybody's in that room for the same purpose, to kind of meet new people, things are just a lot more free flowing. In a virtual environment, you can't walk over to like the buffet or, go grab a coffee, you're sitting in front of a screen. So,
Right.
there are definitely differences.
Yeah, to speak to your point about answering the phone versus texting or having a phone conversation. The people that see that they pick up their phone to see who's calling, and then they let it go to voicemail and then respond with a text.
Yes.
Smack those people as much as I mean, that is the worst. And that's where I actually talked about this on another podcast before, that you can't conform to what that person is trying to do. If you feel that what you want to accomplish needs to take place over an actual phone conversation,
Mhm.
and that person doesn't answer but then sends that text, what did you need? They're trying to get you into that world of, okay, I'll just text it instead. No, the response needs to be, I need to talk to you. Can you please
Yeah.
pick up the phone when I call? Like, we have to
Absolutely.
get to that point, because if we lose that conversation piece that we know we need to have, so much gets lost in translation with
Yeah.
texting. And
Yeah.
it's so hard to accomplish it if you conform to what that person's trying to do. When did we get so scared of it? When did we get so scared to just talk on the phone? That's all we used to do. There was no texting. It was just talking.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm the same way. Like, I know that when I'm talking with somebody new, especially about my business, it's so much more efficient for me to jump on the phone with them. I say for 15 minutes, but I am a talker. And the second I get somebody else on the phone that owns a business and we start kind of chatting, it's 30, 45 minutes later.
Sure.
But it's definitely easier for me to explain like what I do and how we work with different businesses on a conversation where it's interactive. We're going back and forth versus email. And then, for transactional things, email is great. Text
Mhm.
is, you're, confirming a time or an address or a detail. That's
Right.
totally fine.
Right.
But like a meaningful kind of conversation where you want understanding on both sides, phone call. And I can do it in 15 minutes if I have to. But,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, with all the time you have on your hands, right?
I know. Yeah.
Well, I now you're speaking some great truths, and I really feel that that's something that we need to be more aware of in the world we live in, because technology is only going to continue to advance and give us other ways, new ways to not have to connect and have those actual physical conversations. I'm a big fan of voice texting. I like it. I
Oh,
think it's a great tool. I feel it's better than a text like SMS text, to
yep.
use old school vernacular, but still does not replace what can happen when you have an
Right.
actual one-to-one conversation.
Yeah.
It works on all levels with all relationships, business, personal. If you actually take the time to talk, you're going to learn so much about what the other person has to say, and things don't get lost. The context doesn't get lost because you use the wrong font size with a text message.
Right. Yeah. Not enough exclamation points.
Right.
I'm guilty of not enough exclamation points. I'm like, here we go. Matter of fact, done. Bye.
Well, and that's the thing, you say something through text and you know what it's supposed to come across as, but the other party doesn't see it as such. That
True.
can be that leads to a lot of wasted time.
Yeah.
But c'est
Yeah.
la vie. I'm telling you, we need more voices like you and I, Michelle,
I agree.
screaming this from the mountaintops.
I think people are ready for it though. I mean, if you just look at, Pittsburgh and our community and the number of events and groups that are popping up, whether you're looking at like local events or meetups or businesses that are collaborating, or businesses like mine that create events to specifically to bring people together. I
Mhm.
mean, there's so much more than there was before COVID. And I think people really want to be out there. They want to be trying new things and meeting new people. I think having that downtime made people go a couple different directions. They either kind of like hid and did what they used to do, and were like, nothing's happening. I'm just going to turn into a turtle and like do my thing. Or people kind of like woke up and realized, like, oh my gosh, life is short. I have control over how I want to live it and how I want to spend my time. And I want to spend my time doing X, Y, Z. And I do not want to spend my time doing A, B, C. So I think, we're seeing like those people that took that time over COVID to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to live like this. And now we're seeing all those people that are living a little bit happier, more passionate, more purposeful lives.
Well, Michelle, as we get ready to wind everything down today, you've dropped a ton of great knowledge. I think this conversation has really led to a lot of good things. Once again, stamping that point and bringing it home. conversations lead to great things and great results. So here we are proving our points.
Yes.
But in your tenure in the entrepreneurial space, in your professional life, from start to finish, you can go back as far as when you were a kid. What's one valuable piece of advice that you were given that's helped you get to where you are today?
Oh my gosh, just one. That's so much
Yeah, just one.
Okay, I need to think about this for a second. I need to make it really, really good. I think it all really comes down to relationships. We've been talking about, conversations and all these different things, but those relationships that you form along the way, and like we talked about, not everybody is a relationship in your life for the long haul, but those relationships are so valuable, and being able to kind of like step back and look at them critically with, like a neutral eye, and understand, how they fit into your life, how they fit into your journey, I think really helps you kind of like move things along as you progress through all the different phases and stages.
That is a great way to send us out. Michele, thank you so much for all the knowledge and wisdom you brought to the show today. Let the Bomb Squad know how they can connect with you to get more value and maybe get on the phone with you and have an actual conversation.
Yes, I have a call scheduling link that I'm happy to share. But yeah, so you can find my event business, The Beauty Boost Pittsburgh. You can find us on Instagram. That's probably where I'm most active, the Beauty Boost _PGH. You can find me personally on Instagram at Michele Colella Wellness. And then the beautyboost.net is the website.
Well, as always, I'm going to make life easy. You can find all of those links in the show notes. I highly recommend you take a minute to see what Michele is up to and reach out to her and have a conversation, as you've learned today. That's a lot of fun to do. So one more time, Michele, thank you so much for joining me here on Let's Blow This Up. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.